What if doing the right thing felt completely wrong? Welcome to Scrolls and Shadows, where stories hide deeper truths. Today's story is When Obedience Didn't Make Sense. In the city of Orizon, which floated atop a sea of endless clouds, life was governed by the great clockwork. Every citizen knew their place, and every child knew the rule that kept the island afloat. Mio was an apprentice to the keeper, a wise man named Strato. Together they spent their days polishing the brass and oiling the joints of the world. Strato was a kind mentor, but he was firm about the laws of the gears. He often pointed to the primary drive shaft and recited the most important rule of all. The gear must never be touched after the sun dips below the horizon. He warned Mio that to interfere with the night cycle would disrupt the city's balance and cause the island to fall into the abyss. One evening, after Strato had retired to the inner sanctum to meditate, Mio remained on the great balcony to finish her chores. The sky was a beautiful bruise of deep purple and burning orange. She hummed a quiet tune, her long broom sweeping rhythmically against the polished metal floor as the first stars began to blink. Suddenly, a frantic, high-pitched chirping broke the silence. Mio stopped her work and followed the sound to the heart of the main mechanism. There, caught between two massive, interlocking teeth of a bronze gear, was a sky swallow, a small bird, with feathers that shimmered like moonlight. Its wing was pinned, and it fluttered desperately to escape. The sun touched the very edge of the world, disappearing rapidly. Mio knew that in moments the great clockwork would begin its nightly rotation. The gear would groan and turn, and the tiny bird would be crushed instantly. She reached out her hand, then pulled back in terror. The rule was absolute. Obedience was the only thing keeping them safe. In her mind, she could hear Strato's voice echoing through the halls. The rules are the foundation of our survival, Mio. To break them was to invite chaos. He had always been her guide, and his wisdom had never failed her. She had been taught that some things were simply too important to question. But the sky swallow cried out again, a sound so full of pain that it pierced Mio's heart. She looked at the bird and then at the massive, unfeeling machinery. A rule that demands the death of the innocent, she whispered to the wind, is a rule that has lost its soul. For the first time in her life, obedience didn't make sense. With a cry of defiance, Mio thrust the iron rod into the mechanism just as the gears began to shift. The machinery shuddered, emitting a shower of golden sparks that looked like falling stars. With the movement momentarily jammed, she reached into the dangerous gap and gently scooped the trembling bird into her hands. Strato walked over and knelt beside her. He didn't yell. Instead, he placed a gentle hand on her head and watched as the sky swallow took flight. Its wings were mended by the magic of the city's height. The rules are meant to protect life, Mio, he said softly, a small smile touching his lips. When a rule forgets why it exists, it takes a brave heart to remind it.
Wow, that was a very interesting story. Rules help the world, but they should never take away kindness. When Mio chose compassion over fear, she learned that true wisdom means knowing when to follow a rule and when to do what is right. If this story impacted you, write your lesson in the comment section.